Hello there, everyone. My name is Crazy Caleb, and today we're going to be taking a look at Maritime Semaphore. Now, you may be wondering, what am I doing at the starting screen? Why haven't I loaded up the bomb yet? Normally, I tend to do this with the bomb as lights turn on. Because this module does require a little bit of setting up at the beginning, as I would like to say. So let's actually get right into this, and I'll explain what I mean along the way. So there's essentially going to be one configuration of a series of semaphore positions and maritime flags that is going to be corresponding to a dummy. Now, the dummy has at least one maritime flag that encodes a digit. A digit is down here. So we have 10 seconds to find our digit here, which is going to be this guy right here. So red, yellow, red is a 1. So this is going to be our dummy. That's kind of what you have to do at the beginning, and you have to know that this is on the bomb. It is a little bit annoying that it kind of starts off with that instead of starting on the dummy as it normally was, but you want to essentially get to this position because of the fact that you cannot submit the dummy into the module, and leaving a configuration unchanged for 10 seconds will submit it. So we're going to figure out one of these 6 flag configurations, which can be viewed by pressing the left and right flagpoles right here. We're going to figure out which one we're essentially going to be submitting that is not the dummy. And one thing I would advise you to have sort of in the back of your mind, let me make sure I'm recording, I am indeed. So one thing I would advise you to have in the back of your mind is how sort of maritime flags and semaphore work. I'm going to leave the link to the description of both of these modules in their links in the description, and sort of just to give you a better idea of what exactly you're going to be looking at, how to sort of describe each of the flags. Because knowing how the flags look and how they're oriented, especially when you have stuff like in the southwest or the south, heck, even the west or east, is going to be important to understand how the flags work. So it's pretty straightforward, but again, it's just a little bit of a thing that I would sort of have in the back of my mind, because knowing the two modules is much easier than this one. Knowing both of these modules is much easier than the others. So let's get right into this. So what exactly is our goal here? So obviously our goal is to figure out which configuration we're essentially going to be submitting. If I can zoom out, there we go. So we're going to figure out which one we're going to submit. And essentially what's going to be happening is we're going to leave this for 10 seconds, which is why we need to define the dummy immediately. So we got to keep that in mind. And of course, the way that you can prevent the submission is, of course, just cycling back and forth between these these guys, for example. As long as you're not leaving it unchanged, you should be good to go. So let's figure out what we're going to be doing. To find out which configuration is the disarm configuration, we're essentially going to obtain 10 digits from the table on the following page. Each row corresponds to a configuration in order, and each of the row that corresponds to a non-dummy configuration, obtain a digit from each half corresponding to the alphabetic distance between the semaphore letters, between the semaphore and each maritime flag letter. So what we're essentially going to be getting is we're going to be getting 2 maritime flag letters, and 1 semaphore position, which is going to be our semaphore letter. So let's figure this out. So normally what I tend to do is I tend to essentially write down the maritime flags first, and then I get the semaphore letter. Of course, you can do this either way, but it's much easier to get either or. So we're actually not in the first position, so we need to actually go back to the first position, which is going to be these 2 guys right here. So let's take a look at our letter flags down here, and the order that which you get them in does not really make a difference as long as you get the maritime flags and you separate them from the semaphore flag. That's going to be your sort of key thing. So let's take a look here. So we have a white cross on a blue background. That's going to correspond to a mic right here, and we have a red-white 2x2 checkerboard, which is going to correspond to uniform. That's our 2 maritime flag letters taken care of, and our semaphore position is going to be in the southwest and southeast. Southwest.southeast is sort of the notation for that, which is going to correspond to a November month. Now, the only thing we really care about in the dummy position is essentially our number of which we have, because remember, it can have more than one of them, at least 1 maritime flag that encodes a digit, and all we actually care about is the digit that we get. So in this case, it is a 1, red, yellow, red, horizontal. That's going to be a 1. So let's move on to the next position. So let's take a look. Let's actually bring it back down here. So we have a blue cross on a white background, similar to what we had before. It's a mic. And we have a yellow large blue and a yellow horizontal, which is going to correspond to delta right here. Then we have the positions of north.east. So north.east is going to correspond to Juliet, and that's going to be our 3rd position taken care of. So next up, we have the delta again. We have the delta. And then we have a yellow plus on a red background. That's going to correspond to Romeo, along with the positions of southwest.north. Southwest.north corresponds to, wherever it is, southwest.north, I can find it. That's going to correspond to a kilo right here, as you can see. Finally, for the last two positions, let's see what we have here. So we have a red square on a white background, on a blue background. That's going to correspond to a whiskey, as we can see down here. Then we have, again, the white cross in the blue background. That's going to correspond to Mike. And the positions of northwest.northeast. Northwest.northeast is going to correspond to a uniform. So as we can see right here, we have a uniform, and that's going to be that. So then for the final position, we have just a solid yellow. A solid yellow corresponds to Quebec. And then we have yellow, blue, and that's going to be vertical instead of horizontal. That's going to correspond to Gulf. Along with the positions of north.east, which I believe we actually had before. So north.east is going to be a Juliet, which we did. So now we have all of our positions figured out. We're currently back on the dummy, so we're not going to be able to submit anything. And essentially, we're going to get into the module of what we need to do. So I've separated each of the, let's separate the maritime flags from its semaphore flag, or semaphore letter. And what we're going to do is we're simply going to take a look at this table here, and starting from the position of which we're currently at on the module, in this case, this is the position 1. We can't go to the left anymore. And every time you go right, it's going to be position 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, all the way until you can't cycle anymore. That's going to be that. So we're not going to be using position 2 at all because this is currently our dummy position, and we don't care about our dummy position. So for position 1, what we have here is we need to essentially compare each individual letter of the maritime, essentially, and we need to see what the distance is between the earlier maritime flag letter and the later maritime flag letter. There's going to be one of each present in each of them. So what we need to do is we need to figure out which of the what the distance is from each of them. So we have November as our semaphore letter, so we need to figure out the distance between uniform and Mike. Mike is going to be our earlier letter, so the distance between that is going to be a 1, which provides you a convenient alphabet down here. Or essentially what you can do is if you don't want to use that, you can essentially use alphanumeric conversions here, which is going to be a 14 minus a 13 is going to be a difference of 1. So it's going to be decreasing by 1, which will give me the number 3. And we're essentially going to get 10 different numbers, 10 digits, and we're going to add this up later on. So you'll see what we do afterwards. So we get 3 from this. Now for the later position, we're essentially going to take the 21 from uniform, that's the alphabetic position right there, and we're going to essentially subtract the 14 from our November. And that's going to give us a positive distance of 7, which is going to give us an 8. And those are our 2 numbers taken care of for this position. So now we're going to skip over 2 in the second position, and we're going to go to the third position and convert these guys to a series of 2 different numbers. So the distance between Juliet and Delta is going to be essentially 10 minus the 4 is going to be a distance of 6, so we're going to subtract 6 from Juliet to get to Delta. That's the way that works. And we're going to get 8 from that. And then Mike minus the Juliet, which is going to be a 13 minus 10. 13 minus the 10 is going to be a 3. That's going to be a positive 3 from Juliet, is going to give me a 5. So now we're done with U. Now we're going to move on to the fourth position. And let's take a look here. So we have Delta Romeo Kilo. So Kilo, the earlier letter is going to be a delta. So that's going to be a 11 minus a 4, which is going to be a minus 7, which is going to give me a 4. And then the later letter is going to be 18 for Romeo, minus the 11 from the Kilo is going to be a positive 7, which is going to be a 2. Next up for the fifth position, uniform is our semaphore letter. The earlier letter is going to be a Mike, so that's going to be a 21 minus the 13 is going to be a minus 8, so minus 8 right here. That'll be a 7. And then the uniform to the whiskey is going to simply just be plus 2. That's nice and easy, 2. And finally, we have Juliet as our semaphore letter. The earlier letter is going to be the Gulf. That's going to be a distance of 3, 1, 2, 3. So position 6, keep in mind, for our last position. Minus 3 to get to the Gulf is going to be a 5. And then from the Juliet to the Quebec, that's going to be a plus 7. 17, which is the Quebec, minus the Juliet, is going to be a minus 10, and that's going to be a 7, which is going to give us a 1. Now let me make sure I did something right. I want to make sure it was 18 minus the 11. It's going to be 7. That was in the 4th position. That was a 2. Okay, good. Yep. All good. All right, so now, what are we going to do with all this information we just got here? So we got all of our 10 different digits, and we have our 1 from the dummy display. And what we're essentially going to do is we're going to add all of those digits up, all of the 10 digits, and then also add any numerical maritime flags used by the dummy, which in this case we had a 1. So let's start adding everything up. So let's do 3 plus 8 plus 8 plus 5 plus 4 plus 2 plus 7 plus the 2 plus the 5 plus the 1, and finally adding the 1 from the dummy display we have here plus the 1. And now essentially what we're going to do is we're going to subtract 6 or modulo 6 until we're in the range of 1 through 6. So let's do that. So modulo this by 6 is going to give me a 4, and this is the configuration in the position that is the disarm configuration. So what we're going to do is we're currently on the 2nd position, dummy is in the 2nd position, we're going to go to the right 2 to get us to the 4th position, and we're going to wait 10 seconds to submit it. So any second now. And just like that is a solved module. Let's go over one more example, and I will explain to you the importance of the dummy, because it's very tricky to it's very easy to mess that up and not realize that, oh hey, we got a maritime semaphore on this module, and then it just struck me. So it's of course important to make sure that we get to the dummy ASAP, and of course we can solve it then whenever. But it's that leaving a configuration unchanged for 10 seconds, and the way that it spawns, it could potentially not spawn on the dummy. That's sort of the important part of it. So let's take a look at one final example. This module is pretty straightforward with what it asks you to do, and the way that how do I describe it? The way the adding and the stuff that you have to do is not hard. It's just getting the read can be a little bit tricky. So this doesn't look like a number. This one does, I believe. Yeah, this one's a 0 right here. So that one is a 0, so this is our dummy. This is kind of where knowing that whole aspect of maritime is going to be super duper important, especially having that sort of background in maritime. That's going to be super duper important for you, because finding that dummy is going to make it a lot easier for you, because sometimes you'll have a hunch and be like, wait a minute, that's a numerical number, I think. Of course, some of the X's are a little bit weird, the crosses rather, because there is that mic that can sort of throw things off, but again, for the most part, and the Victor as well. But for the most part, you can kind of have a hunch of what you're looking at. Of course, just let's play it safe, and let's just sort of go back and forth and confirm with your expert that you are looking at exactly what you're looking at. So let's get our read. So let's go all the way to the 1st position. So we have here, on this first one, we have a blue, white, red, almost like the French flag, vertical. That's going to be a tango. On the right one, we have a yellow, blue vertical. That's going to be a kilo, as we can see over here, and the position of west dot southeast. West dot southeast corresponds to a Sierra. And we also happen to have the same position of flags on the second ones here. So let's mark those 2 with question marks and a Sierra. Now for you, we have a series of 4 different colors present on the module. This one actually is pretty interesting from itself. That is going to correspond to a Zulu. Zulu for the first one right there. Keep changing it. And this one we have a white square on a blue background. That is going to correspond to Papa. And that's that taken care of. So now we're at here. This is our dummy position, so that's going to be the 3rd position. I'm going to mark this with 0 because that's the numerical digit that we have present on the module, and the other character is a November because it's the blue, white 4x4 checkerboard. So we don't have to worry about that. So now let's get the other 3 positions of which we need to get. So let's take a look. So we have the white square on the blue background again, so that's going to be a Papa. We have the delta again, which we had beforehand. That's going to be delta, and we have north.east. North.east is the classic Juliet case, because that's going to be, for Semaphore, that's sort of your, how about the manual for it real quick? For Semaphore, that's sort of your way of determining the difference between the J or letters, and in most cases, you're going to find this one quite often. It's either determining letters or numerals based off of your serial number for the normal Semaphore module. So that one's going to be pretty common to see. And you might look at it and it might be very familiar to you. So let's continue on. So we got this one. So now let's get U. So we have the blue-white 4x4 checkerboard. That's November. And we have the solid yellow again. That's going to be Quebec. And this is going to be west.north this time around. So west.north is going to be, where is it? That's going to be Papa. That's going to be that taken care of. And for our final position, we have a solid red with a cutout on the side of it. That's going to be Bravo. We have a blue square on a white background, which is going to be a Sierra, BS. And we have southwest.north. So southwest.north corresponds to a kilo. And just like that, let's head back to our dummy here, so we don't have to worry about submission. And now let's get into the calculations of it. So currently we're going to be avoiding the third position this time around because of the fact that that's going to be our dummy. We don't care about the third position. We only care about the rest of these guys. So the distance between Sierra and Kilo is going to be 19 minus 11, which is going to be an 8. 8 is going to be the earlier position. This is on position 1. And Sierra to Tango simply is just going to be a +1. They're right next to each other, so it's going to be +1. So it's going to give us a 4 and a 0. Next up in position 2. Position 2 wants us to take a look at the difference between Sierra and Papa first. Sierra and Papa is going to be 19 minus the 16 is going to be -3 from it. That's going to be a 0. And then the distance between Zulu and Sierra, because Zulu is the later version in the alphabet, so that's going to be 26 minus the 19. That's going to be +7 to it. That's going to be another 4. Skipping over the third position, we're going to go to the fourth now. We're going to go take a look at this one. Juliet is going to be our semaphore position, and the earlier maritime flag letter is going to be Delta. Delta is going to be 10 minus the 4 is going to be a difference of 6. So that's going to be a 2. And next up, the later version is going to be Papa, which is 16 minus the 10 of the Juliet, which is going to be a 6, which is going to give me a 0. Lots of zeros this time around. Interesting. So next up onto the fifth position, we have Papa and November. That's going to be 16 minus 14, which is just going to be a difference of 2, as we can see here. So difference of 2. And the difference between Papa and Quebec, they're right next to each other, so that's going to be +1. So we're going to get 5 and 6 from these numbers here. And finally, for the last position, being position 6, from Kilo, how do we get to Bravo? So from Kilo is going to be 11 minus 2. We're going to subtract 9 from this, so that's going to be a -9. That's going to be a 0. And from Kilo to Sierra, we're going to get 19 minus the 11. That's going to be a +8. So that's going to be +8. Cool. So now let's add all these numbers up, and we don't have to worry about the number from the maritime flag because it simply is a 0. A lot of these are actually quite zeros, so that's rather quite interesting. So we're going to add 4 plus 4 plus 2 plus 5 plus 6 plus 8. Now we're simply going to modulo this guy by 6, which is going to give me a position of 5. And this is going to be our submission position. So we're currently at position 3, so all we simply need to do is go right twice. 1, 2, wait 10 seconds, and then hopefully we should have solved the module.
That is absolutely right.
And just like that, bada bing, bada boom, we have done the module. As always, thank you guys for watching. Remember to stay crazy, stay cool, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye-bye.